And then just under the programs, you'll be able to find Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, and you can catch up with all previous programs in case you missed. Tonight, we are talking about home. We've just seen the whole idea of home, and I'm sure in tonight's conversation, I'll be trying to find out from you, people participating in tonight's conversation, what home means to you. Where is home? I was born in Barara in Uganda, a place that I treasure and love so much. So many childhood memories in difficult times, during times of struggles, times of war. Idi Amin was overthrown in 1979, and then we fled out of the country, and that opened up a whole new chapter into my life. Whenever I get to Mbarara, looking at the Mayembe Gente, which is really what introduces you to Mbarara, that's the cow horns. There's a cow head. Getting there and seeing that alone sort of tells me I'm back home. But then I grow away. I go away, and we lived in the Antonde where I grew up, spent much of my adolescence years, secondary, and even uni. And in that area, a lot of my memories are there. A town that I call the YY because everywhere you come to it, you just have to go through a Y system. It's either you go through the city center or you go through the bypass that avoids going into the traffic of the city center. Small town it was, but a very busy historical town it was. For me, the memories of Lianton, they still are fresh. Whenever I get there, there's just something, I get goosebumps on my body just entering or seeing the place, because you see the place before you actually reach it. Driving, especially either from Barara, you can see it on the hilltop, as you're getting from the road that goes to President Museveni's home, just that road. Then immediately you're seeing the Antonde. Or from a place called the Akaregero, you just look and see the Antonde from a distance and you're coming to it. The sort of memories of secondary boarding school life that was in there are just unbelievable. But that's also home for me. Then I was in Kenya, where I spent nearly 7 years of my primary education. Again, another place that had a very, very significant influence on my own life. A place where I had to learn languages like Kikamba to be able to survive. It was very difficult to survive. And the best way to be able to do that was actually to learn the language. I did not only learn Kikamba, I also adopted a name. My name was Kilonzo, Kassim Kilonzo Kayira. You can imagine now all of this was just trying to adopt into that situation. That became home because, again, it holds a particular part of my history. But then I finish, come back to Uganda, finish university, go to Rwanda, which was home again. And Rwanda was where I began my entire journalism career, my life in terms of who I later on became. I credit to Rwanda. That's one thing I can never, ever take away. And in Rwanda, all the times, got really to fly high, travel with presidents. But coming into Kigali and going to land at the airport, that river Nyabarongo, the way it just looks like a snake with its brown waters of the topsoils that it has washed away from where it picked it up, from the 1,000 hills that make up Rwanda, where the river just moves and picks up all the topsoil, making it and keeping it brown throughout. It I've never seen it any whiter than the brown that it has been all my life. That image alone, coming through the hills, the mountains, and then coming to land in Kigali, had that particular feeling to it that was just unbelievable. Timeless, whatever I would think about. And then come to the United Kingdom, where I've spent more than half my life, 20 years of being in the United Kingdom. I didn't even think I'd spent that long in this country. And here, the receptiveness of the people, the support from the government, building up oneself and being able to thrive, all it takes is your ambition and your ability to be there. Place that you cannot compare with so many other places. You come to a people that you've never met, and then you make those friendships that become lifelong friendships. This again becomes home. Now the dilemma is, where would you say you actually is home? A question that I've had so many times, just like I've been confused whenever I tell people I speak 12 languages. The question they've always asked me is, Kassim, what language do you dream in? Tonight, I'd like to find out from your own selves what the story has been for you. These are all places that hold special meanings to me. And with my children now, working so hard, every year or at least once in 2 years, I'll take all the children to the farm, a place that we moved to, never lived there before. It was a place that I can now call my place, not our place, because our place is where I, my mother, my father, and siblings lived. But now I've gone in, grown out of that, and created my own space, a place that I call my own. I take the children to the farm to try to encourage them to see what is happening on the farm, for them to like it and take it on. That is home for me. Is it home for them? I think it will be very interesting to hear that. And that's the conversation that we are opening up tonight. Thank you very much. If you've just joined us, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio. We are live on Connected, and that is on YouTube, on Zoom, and live on Facebook. Remember, you can leave your comments in the chat room in case you want to, well, have a say. You can always do the Zoom way of raising your hand. You can just click on the raise hand button, or the way this program works, everybody has something to say about a topical issue that they attend to. So I might just bump into you once and straight into you. Do not worry. I think I've shared my part of the story. There shouldn't be any reason as to why we shouldn't actually be sharing. Here we come to share. No topic is out of discussion. The only difference is we do it with respect, with decency. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mariam Chisitu, I'll come to you first tonight. And I'd like to hear what home actually means for you. And I'm sure you are almost as confused as I am. You've been to the United Kingdom, in the United Kingdom, for almost as long as I have been. And yet you still have one leg across the continent in Africa. Mariam, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but you know how this program works. Welcome to conversation tonight.
You have.
When you saw the trailer, the promo that I did talking about home, what comes to mind when someone mentions home? What sort of memories does that bring to you? You've had my own story.
I think home is all about belonging, really. I've got good memories in Uganda because I have my initial education from nursery through to halfway secondary school was in Uganda. So I've got some good memories all the way to senior 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there on, I transitioned into the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. So I think to me, I've spent more years here than back home. So yes. I would like to say home is where I am living presently at the moment. Although I've got strong attachment to where I originally, come from.
Would you question the person who says home is where the heart is, or you just agree with that? It seems to be that's what you're saying.
I would agree with them. It's what your gut tells you. It's those attachments. It's those relationships that you've built with whoever is in that place you call home.
Mm. But it depends on your circumstances, because you can imagine someone who left home. Many of us who came, well, we all came in different ways, but many people who leave Africa to come to, say, to Europe, it's because of the economic reasons. You say, I'm going to go there, inshallah, me 6 months, latest 2 years, I would have finished and I pack up my stuff and go back home. 20 years down the road, you're still stuck here. Some actually now become traumatized as a result. That might be a different, to such a person, the meaning might be different when you talk about home.
Say that again, I missed the last bit. Such a person?
Well, I'm saying to such a person, home might have a different meaning. I mean, someone who came in and the promise was, guys, I'm going 6 months, inshallah, work hard, make the money, back here, bismillah, and I forget all about Europe. 20 years later, the person is still stuck there. That person would have probably a different meaning to what home is, because probably their heart is still stuck there, despite the fact that they've been stuck here 20 years.
True, I would agree to a certain extent, because I'm assuming that person came with a lot of dreams, with a lot of, promises from probably people who have been in the land where they're living before them. And they probably haven't achieved as quickly as they probably thought they would. But their heart is still, where they originate from.
So you talk about all the many memories that you have, for example, of your first home, Uganda, and then of your second home, which is your main home, the United Kingdom. Maybe you can share some of those memories.
What are the memories? Well, most of my memories will be probably in my secondary school life, the kind of life that I kind of lived, the friendship that I made. I'm still in touch with most of those people. My relationship with my parents. Yeah, the outings, the hanging out with friends. Some of which that I carried to the United Kingdom, and then it phased out over time. Yeah.
Is there something that you miss that whenever something happens? Because there was something I was actually having a conversation with a fellow sheikh, and it was quite interesting. I was telling him, you cannot avoid music, sheikh. And the sheikh was really very bitter. He sort of said, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah.
Yeah.
But then we ended up, I just said, calm down. Let's just take it very slowly. I said, sheikh, you don't listen to music. No, I said, astaghfirullah, I don't. I said, have you ever been in a situation where, for example, tell me about when you finished your university, come back to Uganda and you're looking for a job. So he said, I arrived in Uganda, alhamdulillah, I was trying to look for a job. So I was writing my CV and dropping it in different places. And the good thing is he had done both secular and religious studies. And so I said to him, in the taxis that you sat while you're going, was there no music playing? I said, yes. He said, yes. Is there a particular time that, for example, you got an interview and you're going to get a job? I said, yes. Is there some music that probably was played around that time that could actually just hang on your mind, despite the fact that you don't like it, you don't have to subscribe to
Yeah.
it. It was playing and it has those memories. Maybe you
Yeah.
have lost someone and you are in a taxi going for the funeral. In the meantime, the taxi driver doesn't know about your loss or whatever. They are playing that music. Anytime that song plays, it just evokes those memories of that particular sad moment. The Sheikh was Allah Akbar, Wallahi, that is true. So I said, you do not have to subscribe to this, but this is the reality. So even in the case of home, there are those things that actually, stand out. There's a song that used to come on, and my sister would say, whenever that song plays, she thinks of chai and mandas because we used to run a restaurant. We used to
Yeah.
own a restaurant. And each time, that song just played, for her, the image that came was just chai and mandas because that was a thought process. But about home, there are these particular things that become so pertinent. Let's bring it from even an Islamic perspective. The Prophet ﷺ spent 23 years in his prophethood, in his journey of prophethood. The first 13 years, which many people tend even to forget, he had the first 13 years of the 23 years, 13 years were had in Mecca. Very difficult time, and this was his birthplace. He was not accepted. There was a lot of resistance, 13 years of a lot of difficult missionary work. The Prophet ﷺ now moves and migrates to Medina. Medina is even named, that the city itself was not called Medina, it was called Yathrib. And because the Prophet moved there, it was called Medina, and it is Medina to Nabawi. That's the city of the Prophet. He gets accepted, he gets success. 10 years that followed were much more successful, and they have led to the 4 billion Muslims, 2.5 billion Muslims that you have across the world. Started with that particular transformation, moving from Mecca into Medina, where the Prophet was accepted and the mission started. So deep down, you're sort of saying the Prophet was missing the 10 years that they were in Medina. He was very successful, he was having this, but part of him was happy, missing what was the bigger home. Home was Medina, which was even the city that is named after him, but deep down there was deep pain. Evidence comes in when the Treaty of Budapest, in the 9th year of migration to Medina, they go to the Hudaybiyah where a treaty was signed. Many Muslims, many followers, many companions of the Prophet were hoping that the Prophet ﷺ and his Sahabas would get a chance to enter Makkah. Once they entered Makkah, the problem then became, once they go to the Hudaybiyah, they were not allowed to enter into Makkah. They signed a treaty that was so difficult, so disadvantageous to Muslims. Many Muslims were very annoyed. But to the Prophet ﷺ, he was thinking, we have agreed that next year we shall come and perform our Hajj and enter Makkah without any fighting, and we protect the city. Deep down, this kind of heartache, the hysteria, the homesickness could be felt in the companions that had gone with the Prophet, hoping that after signing the treaty, they would get a chance to enter Makkah. and they were never allowed to do that. So even within religion, like taking it away, because sometimes with topics like this, someone might just think it is just, lahau, it is just a sort of an outsider thing. But put it in that context and see a person. Look about the 10th year when the Muslims returned to Mecca as now successful, victorious people who came to enter with a lot of peace. The Prophet's heart was in the right place. This was homesickness, that you can feel it, you can almost suddenly have a feeling. Let's widen the scope now to the conversation to other people. Thank you very much, Mariam, for opening us the conversation to us. I can see a hand from Ismail Musoke. Ismail, assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the conversation.
It's a pleasure to be here again.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Now, home. Where's home?
Home for me, so many places.
Okay.
I've grown up here in London, South London, in Croydon. But I've also lived in Uganda as well. I studied for some time in Uganda. When Uganda, so whenever we go where Chireka I feel that attachment and that feeling when I'm in that area as well.
What stands out for you? What stands out for you? Because for me, in all the different places that I live, there is something that you'll connect with it. Liantonde, I'll give you an example. The moment you just arrived, we had this kind of, it was a buzzing, growing town. In the evening, from around 4 o'clock, many of the trucks are arriving, the trailer drivers are arriving, parking on each side of the road. Prostitutes moving in the city now because they've seen the truck drivers. Restaurant very busy, chapati in the kitchen with the horses and fish. We are changing uniforms. Our waitresses now would have a different uniform in the morning. In the evening, they have a different smart uniform to attract, of course, the customers. I'm busy at the counter. These are memories that just come straight the moment you mention home, and that is the Antonde for me. What comes in where do you see them put on the roadside? They pack up borders or what? What do you see?
Yeah, I think yes, it's very similar. You imagine the about border, about Chapati. What do you about Rolex? The best Rolex, I'm telling you.
Roadside chapati there. Yeah.
That's it, roadside chapati, and it was, and it's they usually come after 7 o'clock. If you want to see where they're alive, come out after 7 o'clock. After in the evening, Maghrib time, that's when the food is even more nice. The street food. Abatunda, when you put it's not sweet corn. When they I forgot the name.
Mpengere.
That's it. Yeah, when they kind of put it on the stove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's that as well. We've got Nambole nearby as well. So sometimes you might hear the noise coming from the stadium.
Yes.
And the people and the life that's around the area. These are all the memories that come back to us. We'd grown up here, so we moved over there to live and at first it was a bit of a culture shock, but within a year or even a few months, we just this was now home for us. This was now home because of the people had accepted us, the local community, the neighbors, and our mother especially, she made a big effort to make us engage with the local people and really immerse ourselves in that culture. So for me, that's home. That's part of home anyway. That's part of home. Because I don't think home is one place. I mean, maybe everyone has their view, but home could be very many places. But for me, that's one of the places. And then also growing up here in London as well. Especially
that was my next question to you, growing up in London. Now you've painted a picture. Actually, that's why for us in journalism, they say that good radio is better than television, because you paint a picture and you take someone there. You can almost hear, the honking of the borders, the dust, the trucks, the taxis just cutting through, avoiding the lines. You can almost picture the image even without being there. You're taking someone there. Now about London, about your South London.
South London is it's a very unique area, especially Croydon. Croydon is one of the most diverse places. I remember being very young and mum taking us to shopping to go in the market to do shopping, and you'd hear almost maybe even 40 or 50 languages just walking for 5 minutes in the market. There was someone screaming in Polish in the Francophone over there. You have someone in the corner, speaking, Yoruba. So, and I remember growing up, one of the benefits of growing up in London is that you start learning and picking up a little bit from different cultures. So if I see a Nigerian, I can say Bawani. If I see someone Chinese, I can say Ni Hao. You start learning and picking up from every culture and developing your own, which is amazing. But Croydon is colorful. It's colorful. It's busy. It does kind of remind me of Wigan a little bit in terms of the chaos, the organized chaos. The organized chaos, the smells of the different takeaway shops. You've got the grilled chicken coming from this side, and different foods that you can smell.
There, the capital ribs.
You got
Jamaican.
All of it.
Yeah, the Creole fish.
That's it.
Yes.
So it's
Ajat Leila is calling it organized chaos.
Organized chaos.
One of the things that someone thinks about South London, especially areas like Brixton, someone would worry so much about that. That's the part that you haven't mentioned. Like walking in, where would you be more worried if you're in Kampala in terms of your own safety as a black man? Well, you would be black in both places, but where would you feel much safer? Being at home.
That's a very good question. I don't think I could compare both. I think I would be vigilant traveling, especially late at night, whether it's here in South London or whether it's in Kampala. Anything could happen in both cities, and both have their kind of advantages and disadvantages. But what I would say, though, you've touched on a point about being black. That's interesting within itself, because when I was over here, I always felt, maybe from the system and from some people around that, especially in the area I live in a part of Croydon. I live in a part of Croydon where it's a very many white English, even though now it's starting to diversify. But I lived in a part of Croydon where it's more kind of less diverse. So when we go shopping, we go to the more diverse areas, but where we live, it's less diverse. So you always had a feeling that I don't belong here, I belong somewhere else, whether it's through some of the words kids use in school or different things. So we always felt connected to something else. So when we went back to Uganda now, I thought that I was going to be welcomed with open arms, only to be called Labo Muzungu and Wana Muzungu.
That's very interesting, actually. Now you are almost lost in both places.
So that's a very unique experience that we have. But the advantage of that, Sheikh Kayira, is that we can navigate in both. Wanteka Muchibuga, and move around. If you put me in the middle of central London, I could also hustle my way through. So, it's a blessing within itself to be part of both cultures, and I really enjoy calling both places home.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ismaili, for that brilliant one. Actually, why don't I just cross over to Canada? We just got Canadians tonight, and why not engage them? I can see Mr. Umar Nyanzi's hand is already up. I'm sure he's had the accent and he's getting excited about it. I'll come to you, Umar. Let me cross to Canada first. Mubarak Sekariji. Welcome, Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wallahi, you took me back home, and I can't help it because so much similarities in your stories. And I was born in Rwanda in a place called Rwamara, right? For people who know Nyamirambo, there is a valley down there, right? And so I remember growing up, we're close to one of the famous restaurants, Serikle, right, where people used to play golf and run horses. And so I'm just there, I'm like, what are they doing, right? So I would hold on to the gate, right, looking across because I couldn't go there, right? My parents were stopping me. So then all of a sudden, my parents moved me to Kichukiro, right? So they had moved to Kichukiro. Then, because I'm still young, I'm like, I had just started getting attachment to Rugunga, but now you're taking me Kichukiro. So Kichukiro too.
About the dust, Mubarak. Mention the dust because
yes, the streets, yeah,
a lot of dust.
Yeah. There was fun enough because we were close to the street, right? So every time the car passes, a big wave of dust would come and cover our front house, right? So now we moved Kichukiro, And it was a new development at that time. There was not many people, but also I get opportunity to see while it was developing, playing soccer on the streets. I remember one day, it was on Wednesday in Rwanda at the time, there was no after lunch program. So you went just half day. So we're playing soccer on the streets in Kichukiro. And then I fell down. When I fell down, I hurt my knee. So I came home. Right, I'm bruised and everything. Then my mom said, "Why would you do that?" Right. So having those, because I didn't ask permission. So now she's like, "You got what you deserve," right? Because now I'm coming, landing, laughing. So those memories happened. Then around 1995, I remember, I'll never forget too, another memory. My mom handing me over to someone saying, "Hey, Mubarak, it's your time to go to Uganda to your aunties, go to school." They put me on Matatu from Kigali and all the way to Mbarara. So now you can imagine a kid grew up in Rwanda, Kigali, with lights and everything. Now here I'm in Mbarara, I'm like, wow, I don't speak Kiganda, Kinyankore, nothing. All I know is Kinyarwanda. Now this gentleman who just moved me all the way from Rwanda, he left me there. He hands me over to another Matatu, said, "Hey, this kid is going Bunyaruguru. So when you reach to this town, drop him." I'm like, what? Yeah. And I have no say about this, right? But again, I get to Bunyaruguru, where my auntie used to live. So getting there again, I stranded, and then people ask me, "Where are you going?" I only knew my aunt's name. I mentioned the name. People knew. They said, "Okay, you see that mountain, keep climbing. When you get there, there is a house, and then you can ask that person in the house. They'll tell you then where you're going." So I keep reaching one house, directing me to another. Nobody holding me. I'm just 11, 12-year-old, right? Wow. So finally, I get to my auntie. Brother Kassim, I could not help it but cry with joy at the same time, because I didn't know, how am I going to get to this place, right? I meet my cousins. They could not speak Kinyarwanda. They can only speak Kinyankore. So there was that dynamic. I'll never forget. It was a Friday, right? And guess what? In the morning, my aunt said, "My son, guess what? Time to go get firewood from the forest." I'm like, "Excuse me? Like, I just got here." They says, "Yeah, now you're home. You have to go with other people in the forest and cut the woods and then bring the woods." We left around 7 in the morning. We didn't come until 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. It was my first time, right? And but cut story short, Bunyaruguru became my home, right? That's where I started my primary until I finished primary P7. I built the amazing relationship. We used to live close to one of the lake. Come on, Mubarak. I'm so excited. I'm forgetting the lake in Bunyaruguru.
Lake Katwe, not very far from Lake Katwe.
No, not Katwe. This one was Nkugute. Yes. Nkugute. Yes. There you go. Someone knows.
You can see there.
Awesome. Yeah. So Nkugute was this lake that served for community. You wash your clothing, you drink the water from it, you swim into it, you make wudu into it, because there was Islamic school that every time it's time for Salah, they would send us to Nkugute to make wudu in a lake, right? So having those memories, right? And then from there, I moved back to Kampala, right? Now, a kid from Bunyaruguru comes to Kampala. Now, I already know Kinyarwanda and Kiswahili and Kinyankore, but now Kampala, almost the people I was in, Kiganda. I could not speak Kiganda. Then another confusion kid. I'm like, okay, how am I have to adjust here? So thanks God, I was welcomed in Kampala. I didn't stay there longer. My uncle took me to Bombo SS. It was a senior secondary school. That's why I started my senior 1 to senior 4. Then I built amazing relationship. It was close to the barracks. So when Museveni would come to the barracks.
Nubian at all, because that's the Nubian.
There you go. Exactly. Yes.
So Kabarasunu.
Kabarasunu, seme.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So we ate all the Nubian food, right? Sitting down into Brusa, yes, and amazing people there, amazing culture. And Kassim, I'm telling you, all these places, no matter how challenges were, I was feeling home, right? Because I was feeling
So if I
welcomed.
was going to ask you in one line, where is home for you, Mubarak? You've actually brought in a very interesting conversation now.
Yeah, because let me first finish my journey, then I can tell you where my home is. So
Yes.
I'm in Uganda there, and in Bombo SS with Banubi, I feel belonging and have connection. Then I finished senior 4. Then at that time I was in a break. I moved to Busia border. Now it's another dynamic there, right? And Busia, my job, I was a clearing agent at that time in my off time, right? I saw amazing culture, Basamia, right? Basamia, again, it's another amazing people there, right? Again, I felt home, I got comfortable and working well, going, eating those chips and chicken at night after work, playing pool table, right? Yes, playing pool table. Then, thanks God, at that time, my dad was able to help to arrange me to come to North America, and then I moved to Winnipeg. Wow. Brother, that was the most place that I had a shock, right? So all the training and everything, I thought I was a man now. They're again feeling the same insecurity the way I moved Rwanda to Uganda, right? Because here I come with that mentality in Uganda, you know, when you have a good job, you can have someone washing your dish and cooking for you and everything. Now here I am. I remember asking my dad, he put me in an apartment that was empty. There's nothing, no bed, nothing. He says, I'm like, Dad, what do I have to do with this? He said, there is a store down the street. You can go buy your chairs, buy everything. I'm like, nobody's going to buy it for you. He says, no, you have to figure it out on your own, right? So I had that culture shock. But fun enough, this has been a place where now I have lived over 10 years. It's now I'm coming to my almost 15 years. Now, all those experiences, when I was looking back and I'm like, Mubarak, who are you, right? That question kept coming, right? And I found myself that my home was helping other people integrate in this new home called North America, right? Helping immigrants and finding ways and also helping the citizen born here people how to integrate with new immigrants, right? That's because with my experiences all over the places, I am able to see both point of views because I have had a place where I felt that I'm an indigenous person. I have had a places where I felt that I'm an immigrant, right? So having all those things now have become a skill that I help other people integrate and connect.
Mubarak, I can only stop you because the story is so sweet. I don't want to stop, but we have so many people and so many hands. Thank you very much for sharing your story. If you've just joined us, the program is Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio. We are live on Umma Connected. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. On to Umar Nyanzi now. Maybe I'm sure you are excited having heard from Mubarak's story. Maybe you picked your own leaf. Where is home, Umar Nyanzi? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi barakatuh. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. KK, Mr. Kassim Kayira, for these kind of programs. They do make us feel a little bit connected at the same time for us to have a say. I was meant to give a statement that would be contradictory to your own. You claim to really love the place you call home, Lyantonde. I am from Lyantonde, and I was adamant that I would give my my say about what I call home. That would obviously make yours a little bit look like, you know, you can tell the tale, and that's fine. You know, you just mentioned something in your journalism, you know, studies and stuff. You say good radio could be better than a TV.
Yes.
For some reason, the presentation that someone can give might make something really look nice and sweet.
Yes.
But I do feel, going back to the point, I do feel that I am working in the UK. I've been here just as long, and I feel my friends, my youth. In fact, I came here when I was 18 years old. So my youth, my football career, part of it, everything seems to have, you know, taken shape here in the UK. But why do I work so much? And whenever people ask me, where do you come from? Why don't they say you come from UK? You know, you are already in the UK. You speak the language we can understand. Perhaps the accent is a little bit different, but we can understand. Why don't they say, like, which part of the UK do you come from? Why do they
That's
refer
always,
me?
Umar, that's a very interesting question. Whenever I'm dealing with people in public, when they
Yes.
ask you where are you from, and the question I always ask, which where? I always use those two, which are very broken English, but with a lot of meaning. Which
But
where?
the dilemma is,
You mean here in UK? Do you mean where my color comes from? And I make
the thing is, as you give your answers, when
Yeah.
you talk about home, you are excited, you are
Yes.
passionate,
Yes.
you are showing them a different culture,
Mm.
compared to what you live here. But my point is home, and I do feel I belong to the Anton. In fact, I can actually say I love that place, I think, more than you do. But the way you actually give your statement.
Paint it for me. I think that will do it. Just paint a picture now. Paint a picture.
No.
Take us into the Antonde.
Yes. For the amount of time we've been out of Yantonde, I think it has changed. A lot of people have moved away, the people that we knew. This is me coming from Bilal Islamic Institute, knowing exactly if I go to Yantonde anywhere between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was guaranteed to make what I call a ziyara. Right from the start of Yantonde.
That was
tradition. There were 2 old ladies there I could not miss. The Hajatis, the Balongo. From there, I had every single shop. At least I knew somebody. The Antonde knew me not just because I was one of those kids that were everywhere, but because I was also a good footballer at my young age. So many people got to know me. I got to know so many people. In fact, there was he's dead now. He was called Sekasi. He had one of those trucks that take cows to the town. I could wait for that truck, any truck that would cross. I even used to know them. The signs they put at the back of the trucks, like, something like Echirebe touching Echirevu. And they write there, Kasalampeo. That was for Sekasi. And then we had Simon, and people would write so many things. But all those trucks, I could just wait, and people could stop and take me for free. That is going back to the Antonde. So for me, home is home. The Antonde, in fact, I do feel like the Antonde belongs to me and I belong to the Antonde. In fact, just to make matters worse.
Someone here in the chat room is just laughing out loud saying, I like the Antonde boy's accent.
Che, indeed. So
that's Chapuza United.
Exactly. We do have a WhatsApp group as well that I created with all people just from the Antonde.
Sure you keep the home feel going.
I will. Thank you very much. But also, just to wind it up, UK is home. I have had my family here. I have my children here. I've managed to get my wife here. It does feel home. We set up businesses here that are not going to last just for a day. We are trying to make a foundation as we are the first generation. I don't know about our kids, whether they would love the place we call home, that they would, they call themselves, that they come from that place. So I think we have to accept that home, I think someone mentioned it, home is where the heart feels. Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Umar. And let's go to Mr. Makumbi, Engineer Makumbi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, listening into that conversation, I'm sure you are all getting excited about Wandegea now. Hopefully that's
Wandegea, it used to be my home, but I'm a stranger there. Nobody knows me in Wandegea.
That is a painful thing. I went to the Antonde and I was moving through the town. I used to be Mtabani Wahajat Pasonic. Nobody in the town didn't know Mtabani Wahajat Pasonic. And all of a sudden now I go there. And
the only person who knows me at Wandegea is Sheikh Kiza. The rest are strangers.
Let's hear your story.
For me, when I left Uganda, I landed up in the Soviet Union to go and study.
In the Soviet Union?
Soviet Union by then.
Or Ukraine?
Russia. I was in Moscow. Yeah, before the split. There, the life was very interesting, very funny. You could go on the train. Racism was at highest because they hadn't seen the foreigners, especially black people. You used to sit on go on the train. You occupy the whole seat alone. As soon as you sit on, people move out. So we used to tease them around. We used to go in a group of 6. We end up occupying the whole cabin. The people just move out. Till they realize that we are human beings. You go on the bus, they think that you are a stranger. The most important thing was summertime. That was the climax of the life. Since I was in London.
What was it about summer?
So since I was in Moscow, we used to have 2 months summer holiday.
Yes.
And we had to go abroad. But you spend the first 3 weeks in Moscow doing business, become a forex bureau, getting boys from, you buy Russian coupons used by the diplomats, you flog it off. You make a difference. You get people from Middle East, they come with dollars, you buy them their dollars, then you say to the Ugandans or the other Africans, and then make money. As soon as you feel that you've got enough money, you say, now it's time to hit the street going to London.
Yes.
On the way to London, you take a train. It takes almost 18 hours to get to London.
Was that not during the time of the Cold War? Was it easy to move?
It was the Cold War, but since you're a foreigner,
you could move easily. You could move without a problem.
Yeah, because you're a foreigner, used to give you a visa to travel.
Ah, right.
For the Russian, we are not supposed to travel, but for us, used to get a visa. But at times, you have to tell some lies or to have a fight with them before they give the visa.
Yes.
Time that I have to go to Uganda, say if you're going to Uganda, you should get your airport straight to Kampala. Say no, I'm not taking that.
Yes.
My father's bought me a ticket. I have to pick up the ticket from Uganda Airlines in Kampala, in London.
So you make your way to London.
Yeah, on the way to London.
Yes.
So the stopover in East Berlin, that was very interesting. The Charlie, the border.
Yes.
You go in West Berlin, you book accommodation for a day. Come around 7 o'clock, you go back to East Berlin for meal, because it was very cheap over there. You couldn't have anything in West Berlin. But all the time was any meals, you have to go to East Berlin. Breakfast, you go to East Berlin because you have a multi visa. So you just show it to them. The thing that I failed to understand was the Charlie crossing bridge. Is you never know how complicated how it was. You start moving around from East Germany, from West Berlin. By the time you get there, you hear that you are in East Berlin, in the middle of East Berlin.
Yes.
To go for a meal. There were special restaurants. Soon as they say this is the restaurant for foreigners, which was usually $1 would be enough. Get a 3-course meal.
Yes.
Which was really very cheap. Then we had hostel. Use this, call them pensioners. So you check in at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Leave at 9 a.m. but you have a breakfast. Then you stay there at least for 2 days or a day. When you're in East Berlin, West Berlin, there will be so many shops around. You wake up, you leave the hostel at 9. You have to go back at 6. So you come back around West Berlin, you know everything, you move around. Some funny shops, you pop in there, you see, you get excited. Then the next day,
I get the point.
Yeah.
I won't emphasize it, but I got the point. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Say
so
at around 6.
In London then.
Yeah, you say now I'm gonna have to go to London.
Yes.
You get a plane, get a train from West Berlin. Takes you through Holland or Belgium. Then at around 8 in the morning, 8 p.m., you land at Victoria. That was a very challenging issue. You don't know where you're going to sleep.
Yes.
Usually there was a YMCA hostel in Brixton. But by then it was very unpopular with these people. They thought that anybody who was there was a gang. So you used to have a lot of confrontation from the locals.
Yes.
So we found a nice place in Camden. There we used to stay in that hotel. But transport was very cheap in London by then. You could buy a season ticket for 1 month. It was around £5. There was no zones.
Yes.
As it was.
Yeah.
So
what would you do in London then? So you've arrived from Moscow, you've come to London, you've had your experiences in Berlin and both parts. Actually, I never got a chance. I only got to Berlin after the wall. When the wall fell, that's the time. It's post the wall that I got to Berlin. But now you end up in London. What would you do in London?
We just walk around. We are going to do business.
You do business?
Business. So you are in London.
Yeah.
You used to go on Shepherd Bush, getting t-shirts and jeans. And
What year is that? What year are we talking about?
That was coming close to 79.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You go to East Bali, you go to London, you buy T-shirts, stock up. We stay here for 2 weeks. But because you bring in some eggs, what is called egg kukra, that was fish eggs, which are very expensive. You flog it off and come with whiskey, with vodka, not vodka and cognac. You sell it off.
Mm-hmm.
That's upkeeping.
Yeah.
So the money get from that, he pays for the accommodation.
Right.
For some time. Then you shop around. Wednesday was a very busy time for us. You go to Shepherd Bush, going for the bargains.
Was that the bargain day or what? Why was it Wednesday? What was
T-shirts, any commodity to stock. T-shirts, jeans, is stock. Come the end of the year, end of the month, we send aside time to go to back.
Mm-hmm.
You get a train to East Berlin, not West Berlin, that is stopover, West Berlin.
Yes.
Then you go and buy more jeans. Plastic bags, these carrier bags.
Yeah.
Stock.
Mm-hmm.
Then you head back to Soviet Union. There was a border post,
Yes.
which was this quite Brest.
Mm-hmm.
So you put on three jeans.
Yes. As a way of managing to smuggle them in, otherwise you're
supposed to they could allow you to bring in 6.
Yes.
But you want to bring in, say, 3 more extra, you put on 3 jeans.
But you finished your Russian episode and then you end up in the US for so many years. You ended up in UK in so many years. How did that happen? So where would you call home? I'm actually sort of interrupting with your
When I would say life-wise,
yeah.
Moscow is the best place for me. Because you could get money, you could easily get rubles, spend around, used to go to 5-star hotel for meals. It was very easy making money.
Someone is asking, how could you move? How could you walk in 3 jeans? Wearing 3 jeans?
It's no more. You get small size, medium size, and a big one. You put them.
So you just put them each on top of the other.
Yeah. Used to be around, say, 15, say 10 pounds.
Yeah.
You take them to Soviet and get around 40 pounds. That was a big business.
Now, oh no, that's fantastic. I mean, engineer, I've known you for so many years, and all the lives that I knew, that part of you actually never was there. And I think this is the interesting bit about these programs, that we just get to hear the other side of people's lifestyle.
As soon as you go to cross the border, you go for the meal because you've been starving. They used to tease us. You boys rush to go to work, but you come home when you're starving.
Yes.
That's when you have 3-course meals. Take a train from Brest to Moscow. That will take around 12 hours.
Yes.
You get there. Then you're in the business. You come around with, say, 20 to 15 jeans. Starting them, selling them to Russia's T-shirts, everything. Then you make the local currency. Then I head up for the dollars or the Russian ruble. With those currencies for the diplomats and dollars. You buy dollars from the diplomats, you sell them you get them to the Russia, you make money. You get dollars, you sell those who are coming, those who are coming out of Moscow, we used to call them the villagers.
Yes.
Coming from Odessa, coming from Leningrad, we used to call them as foreigners or villagers. For us in Moscow, we are the ginger boys.
So as usual, I'll ask you this question because I want to bring in more people. Engineer Makumbi, you've said Moscow is your best place, but where would you say home is for you? Because I'm sure it's been so many years since
when I went back to Kampala. It was a shock. I was a foreigner in my country. Nobody knows me. I've got a few friends. When it comes to reality, when I'm at home, I feel I'm more home at here, but I'm trying to make it up to fit in the Kampala lifestyle.
So that's Uganda is home for you for now.
Yeah, Uganda is home.
Fantastic. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. I'll just bring in Uma Connector. See your hand is up. Thank you very much, Engineer Makumbi.
All right.
Hafsa, is that you? Or is it Usama Banning?
When you meet to talk in details.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes, Hafsa,
it's not me. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Well, it's me, but it's I have my husband here.
Right. Your husband who is from Bunyaruguru.
My brother Mubaraka.
Well, welcome, husband. Well, what's the name?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Kassim, amakuru yawe?
Ewa na salama kabisa, umeziti na amahoro.
Wallahi alhamdulillah, barakallahu fi. Ndakomeye.
We are just enjoying here where home is. Where is home? Tell me,
Whenever I'm on this program, I always tickle you either in Runyankore or Kinyarwanda.
Yes.
So that you remember who I am, but I normally don't say my name. And sometimes I come in like Mzee Imam.
The moment you start talking, you already give yourself away. So that should tell you the experience that now I have built up over time, now being able to tell. It's only me that can manage to get away with it.
I know. I know.
So we are talking about, yes.
For me, it is, the story is familiar with Mubaraka's story.
Yes.
It's me and Mubaraka, the way you hear them, the way he said everything. But my journey started from Bunyaruguru and then ended up in Rwanda, ended up in the US. But Mubaraka started in Rwanda. In Nyamirambo, actually, we are almost the same place. Because I'm from Biryogo. My home is in Biryogo. If you have been in Biryogo, Kassim, Kujiporoso.
Oh my goodness. Do you want me to tell you about Biryogo?
So when he was saying Rugunga,
yes,
then my wife was like, you know this guy? I'm like, what do you think I know him? He's like, yes. he's from Nyamirambo. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I'm Rugunga. Then Mubaraka killed it when he says Bunyaruguru. Bunyaruguru. What are you talking about?
and that particular river as well. That particular lake.
The lake, the lake, that's iconic lake because the shape of Africa.
Yes.
So when he says Nkugute, what? Then I'm like, no, this guy now, he knows everything. Now he says Busia. Most of my brothers, all of them are in Busia. Moved from Bunyaruguru, all the Tabligh brothers, all the Muslim brothers, all moved to Busia. They started business there. So then I told my wife, this brother knows all my brothers there. So it is interesting. It's like he was describing myself.
Yes.
But in his voice, I'm like, Subhanallah, this is amazing. So Kassim, in short, wallahi, it doesn't matter where we go. It's where you are born or where you had the best experience and where you have lived. For me, I tend to think sometimes it is home. But you cannot take the Bunyaruguru part in us. Like the Bunyaruguru part, people who have been in Bunyaruguru, Bunyaruguru is a mix, it's like a mixing bowl.
Oh, yes.
You have everybody.
So many Tanzanians there. So many
Tanzanians, Congolese,
yes, Congolese.
Rwanda, all tribes of Uganda, they're there. We have the Wachita. When you're there, you don't even know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
My wife sometimes is like, what language do you speak? Because I talk to my brother. One brother I speak in Uganda. Then I speak to my other brother and I speak in Rwanda. And then it depends where they are. Yes. Then that's the language we use. Then we do Swahili.
I think that's one uniqueness that when actually some Baganda people, and this is really no apologies to you, but you'll find that many Baganda now are very limited when it comes to languages. Because someone like Makumbi now, engineer, managed to travel to Russia, that was a very good new addition. But many Uganda will be concentrated in Uganda. The only language they know is Uganda, not get bothered to even learn the other languages. For us, I tell you how I become Kilonzo in Kenya. Then I'm Kayira in Rwanda, I'm Kayira in Uganda. Everywhere you can fit because you are learning the language. It's a means of survival. You sort of get into a place and you get to learn. So many people actually who ended up as refugees benefited a lot and they learned these languages. So well, go ahead, Imam. Go ahead. I just come in with these interjections that are hard to let go because they just.
It's amazing. Kassim, for me, like some of the programs that we do have here, like they are challenging conversations. Sometimes people don't get the gist of these short programs. But these programs, I would tell my wife, and imagine everyone is there, has a story to tell, but they don't know who to tell. Who can they tell this story? Like I can tell you, like Mubarak has been with that story and has been wanting to tell that story, but there was no avenue to let that out. so I'm telling you, he has so many stories. But to me, like right now, my wife keeps asking me, like, but over then she asked me, so now Kenya, who are you? Then I tell her, for me, I'm what do you think I am? Because I can blend in anywhere. I can speak the language, most of the language in East Africa. So I am like right now, I think Bunyaruguru, right?
Yes.
But then I have a home in Nyamirambo. Then I'm living here with the kids. Now you can see the confusion.
Yes.
So now for us, the diaspora people, at times we don't know where is home. Our heart is back home, where we're from, but our way of life and living is here. I'm talking to these people.
And it's the way these places change, because my father was the first person. I can see actually Mwanaisha Kisure there, as I'll come to you. Mwanaisha, I've seen your hand up, and that will be good now to get a lady's voice in there. We've had men sort of ranting around and enjoying ourselves. But let me take you into Nyamirambo, and I could even close my eyes as I take you into Vidjogo. Because you come from the mosque from Onatrakoma, the Rompwe there, the roundabout.
Yes.
From Onatrakoma, then you take Avenue 4C.
Yes.
My grandfather was the first person to open a restaurant. Mzee Kamati was the first person to open a restaurant there. Next to him was Bamboo Restaurant, which restaurant up to now survives. Bamboo Restaurant up to now, Haji Yazidi survives there.
It's still there.
Down there you had Rugundana. Ahead you had Mzee Ismail Mukasa. You had Mama Kaburimbo there. You had Shaban Wazimu. You had Ismail Yezu down there. You had Rugarave down there. You start walking in this whole place. Go down Kayira Numa. That's where we go. Christmas time, Jesus would be born and would be there at midnight. But this is the Muslim area. And you travel through these places, and these are memories that you can never take away. You know, they still, you just know behind Bamboo Restaurant used to be the garage of Onatrakoma.
Yes. That garage on Onatrakoma, actually, my cousin is still working that. He's so good.
Yes, it was taken. Kiss was expanded and took over part of that. Then come to Tarinyota, which would be your second market. Every spare part, anything that has been stolen from you,
everything.
Drop down a little bit Kwakinyao, where you'd have the chapati and the mshikati, the nyamachoma that is small on.
You're talking about Chinyao. Now they're in Uganda. I talk to them every time. They moved. Chinyao moved. That's where I used to get my bishimbo na chapati. After Magharibi.
Now, when you are talking to your children, where do you say home is? Because probably I'll just go to Mwanaisha.
My daughter is about 15. Huh? My daughter here, she's about 15, and she asked me, Daddy, but I hear you when people ask you where you're from, you tell them you're from Uganda. But then you're not a Ugandan. But you're Rwandese, your paper says you're Rwandese. But when they ask you, say you're Ugandan. So to tell you, Kassim, for me, I'm confused.
Yes.
Because even when I introduce myself, my kids have to remind me, no, you're not. You're not that, you're this. So now
that can be problematic to a white person. When a kid says you're not, means they are very honest about it. So it might be that you're lying, and the reason would be, why are you lying?
And then the confusion starts when I tell them, hey, it depends who is asking.
Yes.
It depends who is asking. When the person asks me where you're from, I'm from Uganda. They ask me why, because that's where I was born. Yes. Then why sometimes you say you're from Rwanda? I'm like, because I'm a national of Uganda, of Rwanda. Yes. That's why I say sometimes, where are you from? It depends how the question. That's how I phrase it to the kids. But you ask me where I'm from. You ask me where I'm from. I was born in Uganda. But where are you from? I say I'm from Rwanda because I'm a national there. So
fantastic.
To me, Mubarak.
Now you are American. You are
now American. So the confusion continues. The confusion continues.
Thank you very much. Omar is here in the chat room saying, colleagues, don't you think it's better to open your videos so that we can see each other, especially brothers, because it seems we are coming exactly from the same place. Well, whoever is comfortable to come on when their cameras on, I think that would be fine. We wouldn't want to force anyone to sort of come on, but I think with conversations like these, you'd almost want to get that. Imam, thank you very, very much. Let me go to Mwanaisha Kisule. I'm sure something has tickled her and, making her probably want to say. Mwanaisha, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome.
I'm going to cut it short.
Yes. No, please.
What's the question?
The question is, where is home?
Home is Mengo Kisenyi in Kampala. That's where I grew up from. That is what I miss. I remember every single thing up to now. When I go, I have to go there, stop at that small market at the Saya Queen, eat the nyama choma, take my kids, and I tell them this is where home is. This is where I grew up from.
Wow. What sort of memories do you have? Because when you, which Kisenyi is it? Is it the one after the mosque down here, the Mzata?
Exactly. Now, for the first mosque, I lived there exactly opposite the small mosque. We lived there when I was the age of 5 till like 8. Then we moved to the big mosque opposite Singa. That's where we lived. Muzukuru wa Ajatinzirani. If you go to Mengo and you ask Ajatinzirani, that's my grandmother, that's my love, that's the woman who brought me up. So
now you would know Haji Haruna Murangwa down there.
Exactly. The one who used to all of them. That is our home. That is, when we used to like how do you say it? When you go and you be naughty outside, akazukuru kaja tenzirani ako nga bakukuba teri na bagenda okulopa nga bamaze okuyisamu.
Oh dear. So what sort of memories do you have? The Toninyira there with the cement paper, brown paper bags there.
Let me tell you something.
Please.
As you know, in the Islamic culture, in our culture, the Swahili culture, we were not allowed to go after Mangaribi.
Yes.
Girls are not allowed to go outside. So naughty me with my cousins, I remember Nunu and Sheila, we used to sneak out and go down there. They used to sell bunyama. That was not muchomo. They used to get the vienda and they pile the vienda and they meet everything together. I took my kids there and I showed them even that mzee who still sells. That bunyama, he was still there at that down market and his sons are taken over. The butcher, oh mashallah, beautiful memory. I just have great memories about home. And even here in England, I live in Birmingham. And if you ask anybody, my colleagues at work, everybody on the street, they know me as a Ugandan woman. Where do you come from, Uganda? I have my Ugandan flag up there, everything. I love home. I love home.
Now that is one person tonight so far that has come.
I love home.
With the place that
there's nothing you can tell me. I've lived in England for over 22 years. I love Birmingham. I've lived in Birmingham for the 22 years, but still Uganda is home.
Allah Akbar. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. The saddest bit is when I go for holidays and when it's time to, this is just a joke, when we come back, I'm always so sad and my husband gets upset. He said, and I'm like, I don't want to go.
Not understanding that there are all these memories.
Exactly.
And the beauty with traveling is how you have your memories painted.
The excitement that I get when I'm going, and when it's time for coming back, I'm sad.
Yes.
It's really sad. I don't know why, but it's always sad. It's always I live when I'm crying, but I know next year I'm gonna go back. But I will still don't want. I enjoy here. Don't get me wrong. My kids, everything is here in Birmingham, but I still love back home. If you tell me today, Manisha, pack your bags, where do you wanna go? Straight to Uganda.
Right.
That's where I call home.
Almost Kisenyi now. But now when you go back and you see
I know
how Kisenyi has been transformed.
Has changed. It's changed so much.
With malls and then there were Somalis there.
Yeah. There's garage in Kisenyi. There's garage after garage after garage.
Garage
go the
after
whole-
garage after garage.
Yeah,
There's
it is
one
sad
China
when you see
there,
that
you're
bit.
just crossing all over there.
Yeah, that's what makes it sad. It makes it so sad when you go back and you don't see the people. Like when we grew up, it was a community.
Yes.
You just go from house to house. From these houses, you're welcome. But now when you go back, you're a stranger. Like you say,
Yes.
it's very few people that you'll meet that will remember you. It's
Remember you,
very few
absolutely.
people that will, like at the masjid, the
Yes.
down masjid, my dad was a big part of it. To building that down masjid in Mzee Omar Said Jimpe, that's my father. He was a big part of that masjid. And then the top masjid, it was where my auntie, the late Asha Bitita, used to live. So opposite,
Yes.
they used to live there. The Senegalese, I don't know if anybody used to pass, and
yes.
they sit on the veranda
on the
outside.
veranda
So
of the
one of
mosque.
my uncle, Sise, used to, because he was married to my auntie, my mom's sister.
Yes.
So I remember that culture, mashallah, beautiful, beautiful.
Manaisha, that Ramadan time, you almost iftar time with
Wallahi.
bananas being spread out nearly the entire road closed off.
Wallahi.
All the way up to Total, and all you see is that Ramadan feel. Madufu usiku kuamsha wanaopenda kula
Wallahi
daku.
tena. Saya
Daku
saya
wote
daku.
out
Wanapiga
to
nini
make
matari.
Yes.
Wanaondosha kula daku. You know, food passing from one house to another. I remember our grandma cooking food, take to your grandma that one. You go to Chiguri, you're moving to the other neighbor, you're taking food.
Yes.
But subhanallah, beautiful. We try to bring the culture back here, but it's not exactly the way. It's not the same.
Fantastic. Barakallahu fikum. If you've just joined us, and I can see Raha in the chat room saying Assalamu alaikum, just listening in and enjoying the show while at work. Yes, we won't disturb you, Nachiaga. Enjoy the show. We will continue talking. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. And tonight we are reliving the places that we call home. I would be very interested actually to hear from the young people. Probably if you are any parents who are sitting with their children, Imam Bukenya had said your daughter is 15 there. It would be very interesting to get their own perspective of what they actually call home. But that was a very, very emotional journey taking us from Mwanaisha there. Thank you very much. Taking us back to Kisenyi. And I've lived so many places, and I think the journalism also helps to sometimes display these kind of images, you know, the Mengo Kisenyi, the way you would walk from that Mzee Musa Kinene, some people call him Musa Kinene. Go from there, Mama Katende, you go down slope to Haji Haruna Murangwa, Haji Mwanga there by the water point, cross over into Musoke zone with the Toninyira there, evening put a serious that way, cross over the bridge into Kinyoro. And this was with all the Mairunji eating, cat eating people there. Fantastic lives. And it's just home. Welcome if you've just joined us. The program is still Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It is 27 minutes past 9 o'clock, which means we have got 33 minutes to the end of the program, and I'd like to fit in as many people into the show as possible. Hajatidaida, I can see you. You've been listening in and busting out, going in and out into the show. But here I come to you. Hajatidaida, your own memories. I think you've been listening to a lot. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Lots of memories I'm sure you've been listening to, from Russia to Canada to Bunyaruguru, all from Kampala.
It has been so interesting.
We are there. Now, what is your own story about home?
I remember I have different definitions of home depending on age. Because when we were growing up, I used to think home is this structure, a house. After school, you go back, you found mom has cooked food, has prepared matoke and groundnuts, because that is my best food. But when I grow up, I think after P7, I had to leave home, come to Kampala, stay with my relatives. Then I was a day scholar. I'm in a new school. In the first place, you're new in Kampala.
Which school was that?
I was in Lubiri High School. It is a new school because we are the pioneers. You're new in Kampala. You're new. The school is new. You don't know the tax packs, because I remember when I came to Kampala, my dad told me the tax pack has so many cars, but just single out this stage of Busega Chibumbiro.
Yes.
And in whatever direction you're moving, please, if you get lost, just stand back and ask whoever is around, especially the border men, where is the tax park? And in the tax park, please look for Busega Chibumbiro. When you get out, look for Haji Tamzade, and that was my grandfather.
Wow.
So morning and evening until when I got used to life in Kampala, and we got used to this life of dodging to pay. It used to be 200 that time, but when you're a student, you get these 100 coins. You hold it in your hands, and when you move, when the conductor asks for money for you, remain quiet. So at the end of the day, when you're moving out, that is when you hand the shikumi to the conductor. But sometimes they used to be hard on us. Yes. Some used to be soft. Those are schoolgirls. Let them go. Let them study. They will benefit the country. So sometimes I look at those childhood memories and I'm like, wow, are our children going to enjoy that?
you bring back memories to me. There's a time someone came to take me to Nkumba. Nkumba University was still Nkumba College of Commerce. Before it became a university, it was Nkumba College of Commerce. Now, the entertainment minister was my friend, and he was from Jinja, but we knew each other. He would come to our school, which was Bilal, very strict. We are chefs there, and come to take us to go dancing. So one time he takes us into a taxi, and he said, "You come, I'm all right, I have got the money." We sat into Entebbe taxis, you know how posh they are. We are moving midway. We had just gone over Zana, almost getting to Seguku. He says, "Kassim, I hope you have your transport money." And I said, "I thank you. I didn't have any single coin." The guy said, "Now, your feet is what is going to save you." And in my heart, I'd never gone into a taxi without money, at least not without asking the conductor that I'm safe. This guy was telling me, "Now your legs are what are going to save you." You get to the stage, be the first one to get out. I'll pretend that I'm paying, and then you start off. So we get to Nkumba stage, park the car, the car gets on the stage. I'm the first one to jump out. I pretend like I'm waiting for my friend to pay. My friend had his own money, and that was the only money. So he pays the conductor because it's at night. The conductor has to enter to see from the light of the taxi. And he says, by the time he said, I'm almost at the gate of the company, but I've never run so fast. That was one thing that I prepared myself. I said, I've never ever bought on the promise of someone paying for my taxi. That was a lesson really, really hardly understood. So you were there in Rubiri SS, and that's Rubiri
High School.
Rubiri High School. Is that the one that was recently in the news for the wrong reasons?
That one. And I wondered how it happened, because that school, the headmaster used to be so strict that whenever he used to find you along the way and you haven't tucked in, he could stop this car and cane you seriously. Yeah. But may his soul rest in peace.
I mean, Anatia is just dying from work because she can't speak, but she's just texting, enjoying. So my uncle's friend also did the same thing. He didn't warn him, and also had no money, so they ended up running. And a runner was always one thing that conductors have to contend with. Yes. So now, where do you live?
Yes.
Where do you live now?
I live in Crawley, that is in West Sussex. So as I went on, as time went on, now I'm into high school, now I'm into the tertiary institution. That one was also a different story. I'm in a nursing school. Everywhere I look, it is only women and women with our issues. So that one was also kind of boring. Yes. Now, after there, into career. Everywhere women. It was kind of boring, but wherever I used to be, there is you go to work and the day turns out to be a bad day. What I can say a bad day, I always wanted to go back home. Not the place where I was coming from in Kampala to go to work, but back home in Mityana, where I used to stay with my parents.
Are you a Munamitiana as well?
Yes, I'm a Munamitiana typical one.
up who will be coming next after you. So that makes two Banamitianas. Yes, go ahead.
So to make matters worse, so when I remember the first time when I went to Mecca, you know, along the journey, I was just looking at this map, not appreciating the plane. Just imagine, it was my first time on the plane, but I wasn't appreciating that. I was like, now I'm going to a place where my mother is not going to board a taxi to come and say hi to me. I'm not going to be able to call her every day. Now, when we reached Medina, things became worse. You're eating rice and chicken. Rice and chicken. That is where I get my second definition of home.
That chicken can
to me, home is also food. When I was in Mecca, fine, I was enjoying Hajj. You know, when you're still young, you're energetic, you're just running up and down. It is on the streets, it is on the air, it is on Tawaf. But then that moment of food, lunch, breakfast, I love bread, but even when I look at the bread that is there, it is not tasty like our local bread. They brought chapatis there. The taste is weird. Lunch, you're either supposed to eat rice and chicken. I didn't know that one day I wake up in the morning that I couldn't want even to look at chicken, but it happened to me. So whenever I felt homesick, what I used to do, I used to prepare some bushera, because I went with bushera in Sano. So I used to prepare porridge and eat with guinness. Can you imagine? So me, when you talk about home, it comes into three things. Number one, the structure, that house that I grew up. Mother is there, dad is there, your siblings are there. You go to the garden, it rains, you peep and see that mom is not watching. You go and play in the rain. You move in the banana plantation. Today you're playing this. You are the maid of honor. Tomorrow you are the flower girl.
No weapon are involved.
Weapon. Getting a dress and wrapping it around your neck. Yes, you put your dress, you stack it very well in the neck, and you're you have made this ball out of the banana fiber. So some things I look at them and I'm like, home is real. This house, this structure in Mitiana that I grew up from. But then there is food. Yes. Me, trust me, when I travel, apart from being in a place where my mother is not going to get on a taxi and say hi to me, where I may not be able, live alone these days where there is WhatsApp, but even you're not going to call your people, home is people. I remember when I was in Canada, in the first place, I had never been in a country where even the Africans, I remember I was in a mall and this baby, this toddler had to come and touch my skin. Then they looked at their fingers. So I think they thought that because I looked dark-skinned, that maybe something might get off from me and it stayed in their hands. So I was in that environment. Wherever you look, you don't see anything that is close home. You go to a restaurant, they present this menu, but you can't figure out what you're supposed to eat. I felt homesick. Actually, I think it was my second day in Canada. I didn't eat anything because I really failed to eat something. I had to eat popcorn and tea and sleep. So the following day, the restaurant manager got concerned and was like, how come whenever you come here, you fail to eat something? Where do you come from? I told them I come from Uganda. So lucky enough, they had been in Uganda. So he told me, don't worry, I'm going to prepare for you something close to home. Yeah. So he prepared some bread and some chicken and fried some cassava. At least that was something that was close to home. That day,
where would you say is home then now?
So me, home is that structure where I grew up from. Right. But when I'm homesick, there are things that come, even if I may not be in that structure, like when you're in London and you're on a train and you hear someone speaking Luganda.
Yes.
that one is also home. And 3, even if I'm down, stressed, depressed, tasting this matoke and ground nuts. After a very long day, that one makes me feel like someone who is really at home.
Fantastic. Hajat Leila, I'm only leaving you because I want to bring in more people. We've got 21 minutes left to the end of the show. Thank you very much, Hajat Leila, for sharing that. I think that's very inspirational. We know now home is the house, home is the food, home is the place that you feel welcome. Debs, you are next. Come in. Thank you very much, Hajat Leila. Debs, Munamitiana, from one Munamitiana to another Munamitiana. Welcome to the conversation. Hello, Deborah. Hello, Deborah. Hi, Debs. Are you unable to unmute yourself? I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself. Hello, Deborah. Are you there? Uh-oh. So while we get Deborah, just to remind you, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. So far, it's about 20 minutes to the end of the program, and we are talking about home, talking about the homesickness, the hysteria that we feel, the memories that home evokes. Deborah, I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself. If whenever you can, if you unmute yourself, I'll just get you in. But in the meantime, I'll just try to get someone who has been, well, I've just been trying to get them, and I haven't had a chance. Omar, you have been here long. Why don't I just grab onto you and the kid that you're on with? Deborah, Debs is disappeared. I think I'll try to look for her. Omar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, Omar. I'll send the unmute again. Try to unmute again. That should be all right now. Okay. Welcome. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah. You can hear me?
Yes, we can actually see you, not only hear you, but we can see you as well. And Deborah has managed to come in, so I'll go to her once we've finished with you. Yes, Omar.
Okay. I don't know where to start because most of my colleagues really they have touched on the critical issues.
Are you a Nyaruguru as well?
not really. But you mentioned the Antonde. I lived in Katovu. You know, it's just
Katovu is where I used to buy chicken. I would just come.
Exactly. So Katovu is close to the Antonde. I used to ask for the bicycle, bicycles, and then I go to the Antonde to visit some friends there. So that was in 1980s.
Yes.
I lived there. I studied in Malongo Primary School. We used to go to Nakatete in Chitori, Chazanga.
Chazanga, yes.
Yes. Actually, I was born in Uganda, Kampala, and I grew up in Kampala. So I lived also in Shungerezi. That's near Mbarara. I lived in Kampala. I lived in Katovu until I, in fact, went back to Rwanda after the genocide. So
yes, Omar, sorry, I'll just say to Debs, Deborah, yes, I will unmute you as soon as Omar is finished. I've noticed I was trying to unmute you and you couldn't come through. So apologies for that. I'll come to you, Deborah, once we finish with Omar. And Leila is saying, I miss home every second. Sometimes I go for 4 days just for home atmosphere. Yes, Omar, go ahead, please.
Angumikirize mukatono naye ajja kufuna akakisa kaayogere.
Yes.
Owulidde.
So for home.
Yes, home. Really, like my previous sister was just finished now. Really, home, when you don't have food for home, you don't feel at home exactly. And as we speak, this is a brilliant idea that you brought. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward you, and we ask you also to have more meetings.
We are here always,
like
Omar,
this one. We talk about those issues because
every Tuesday we are here. Every Tuesday from 8 to 10 p.m. We are on.
Sure.
Welcome.
Yeah. So we need to get the link then. So maybe you can add my contact on your group so that I can have that link.
Inshallah.
So inshallah, I'll be contributing as well or listening in.
Where are you at the moment? Are you in Canada as well?
Yes, I'm in Canada. I'm in
All
Montreal,
right. Today
Canada.
we've had a very Canadian invasion for some reason. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm in Canada, but really I'm here. Alhamdulillah, everything is fine. But omoyo omutima gwange roho yange urukundo rwange at home. So
Which is home now, because now you've mentioned Katovu, I hear Kinyarwanda now, which means there's across the border as well. There's always that mixed confusion.
Exactly. Home is Rwanda. A home is Rwanda. That if I have to give, like, for example, marks, Rwanda will give it 100%, and then Uganda gives 95%. Then where I am right now, because that's where my heart exactly is. But then when it comes to food, like my sister said, the food,
yes.
At Uganda again, I have got another group, it's called Ugandan Diaspora.
Yes.
So today, in fact, on the platform, they are showing fene, they are showing a lot of sorts of foods. So we get fene here sometimes, but you can imagine that there's a lot of fruits that comes from Uganda that you cannot find it anywhere else. Even if the fene that you can get from Mexico here or Guatemala, the bananas, they are not the bananas like we have in Uganda. You can't beat Ugandan food.
Yeah.
Even the bread, the sister was mentioning bread that she had in Saudi Arabia. I have traveled a lot of countries. I lived in South Africa. I lived in Botswana. I haven't eaten any bread that is sweeter than Ugandan bread. So you can imagine, really.
I think I can just. You see now that there's just this feeling. There's just this sudden feeling that you get whenever you think about home. Paint a picture for us about home. Where is home exactly? When you say Rwanda, where in Rwanda?
Rwanda is in Nyamirambo.
In Nyamirambo. Looks Rwanda like the Nyamirambo, it's so many here for some reason.
Yes, Rwanda so the stories is in Nyamirambo. I lived in Birjogo, uraona mu Birjogo kuri Paul Sisi, ku musigiti wo mu Birjogo, ku isoko ryo mu Birjogo. That's where I lived most of my few years that I spent in Rwanda, by the way. In Rwanda, I repatriated in 1994 after the genocide. Then I left Rwanda in 1999. Can you imagine? So that small period I stayed in Rwanda, I was in Nyamirambo and Butare University. So
did you know me when you were there?
Yes, Kassim, I knew you. But you are busy. You are a busy man, a journalist, so that naga.
All right. Okay. No, so thank you very much. So someone was asking in the chat room. Yes. Someone was asking in the chat room that brother Umar knows brother Mubarak.
And I say Salaam alaikum.
Oh, now?
I was saying.
Yes.
That I could see you far, maybe from the masjid or from the masjid, they say Salaam alaikum, but we did not interact so much. So since the few minutes that's remaining, let me give others a chance.
A chance to also come. But yes, I'll try to get Deborah. I'll try to get Deborah Munamitiana, then go to Shafiq. Shafiq, whose hand is up. I think it will be very interesting as well to hear from the young people actually in the diaspora, born in the diaspora, and what it actually means for them before we end the program. Deborah, I'm coming to you, and then I'll go to Shafiq after. Hello, Munamitiana Deborah. Good evening. Hello, Deborah. I'm sure you are able to unmute yourself now. Hello, Deborah. You should be able to unmute yourself now. What's happened to your phone that you are unable now? Abu Bakr comes in to say the home is where I am, just to avoid depression. Well, is that trying to convince yourself? Deborah, I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself. I don't know why you are unable to unmute yourself. So because again, we are struggling with time. If you manage, then we'll just bring you in whenever you can. Shafiq, please come in. Assalamu alaikum. Deborah, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to ask you to prompt you to unmute yourself. Looks like you're not clicking on that button. Shafiq, assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your voice is kind of very low. Would you try and speak up, please? Hello, Shafiq.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Now, hello. Assalamu alaikum.
And may Allah bless you and continue pouring His blessing onto you, because their topic that I don't think the community would benefit and get the best out of such topics. So it's a blessing to have you and keep on, coming with every day you teach me something and I'm learning something which you take for granted, but it is something important within our life. And if we don't reflect upon it, I don't think we can think about our future if we don't think where obviously we've gone through. So that's how, for me, that's how I've looked into this program. Mm-hmm. On my side, I'm of that generation where I didn't move a lot of, I didn't move a lot of places because I've had people here, they've moved from, Rwanda, go Uganda, and then when you go Uganda, from when I go Uganda, not only Kampala, probably my mom's my grand's place, like Bukerere, and then Gomba on my dad's side. I don't have, but you hear people saying places like they come from Rwanda, they go Bushenyi, from Bushenyi they come Kampala. So all that they're learning, they're coping, adapting, learning new skills and how they live. Yeah.
Were you born in Uganda, Shafiq, or were you born here in the UK?
Pardon?
Were you born in Uganda or were you born in the UK?
I was born in Uganda.
Right.
Yeah, I was born in Uganda, but obviously
you've grown up here.
I came to the UK when I was 17.
Yes.
So most of my life I've got a story in Uganda and I can't forget it. Mm-hmm. It's still home. Even though obviously when I go there now, people have changed, but still the memory of when I was there, it still rings a bell and I feel like, yes, I'm home. And then when I think about it as well here.
Share that memory. What do you remember? What comes to mind? What's so fresh on your mind when you think about that time? You've muted yourself, Shafiq. You've muted yourself. I'll try to get you to unmute yourself. You muted yourself, so we can't hear you. Looks like you clicked on the mute button accidentally. Hold on 1 second. Let me just try to get you to unmute. Apologies. And the time is not really our friend at all. I can't even seem to see you now. I can't get to see where you are at. Subhanallah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but the sound, I think whenever you move a little bit, then the sound sort of gets distorted.
No, I think my dad was calling me and I was trying to decline him so that I can finish up quick.
Okay, yeah, because we are tight on time, 8 minutes to the end of the program. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was just trying to find out from you those memories that you say, the memories that you had of Uganda. Take us there. Maybe you can even close your eyes and take us through that place that has memories.
They can't, because Uganda is community. Like you grow up, you're in a community, everyone is responsible, like everyone is taking care of you. If you mess up, a neighbor, mom from, the neighbor, he can come and beat you up. Your mom can, or your dad can beat you up, and the neighbor come to, separate out, things like whereby it's home and you feel it. You feel everything, which is kind of like different in the setup coming from Uganda and then coming here. It's a long, I can't start explaining how I feel.
I know that feeling. But sometimes some people say if I try to explain, I'll just cry. And it's all right to get emotional.
No, it's true.
Yes.
Because for example, but I studied in Buziga Theological Institute in Uganda, but the setup and growing up, getting up when they are taking you to school, and then you feel like you don't want to go to school, and then you go, and then life starts, and then, no pressure, no stress, I don't know if Dr. Kayira, when you get time and you grow, because in this country, I've realized
every time you go to work, there's something that comes and you start getting worried for nothing.
Yes.
Or you're thinking that this is not connecting or things are not going well. I don't think people in Uganda, they feel that way. I don't know, but obviously, I don't know if the environment here kind of obviously had an effect on how we think and how we see things, because I can't call myself that I was born here, or even though I've lived here, it's not the same as back home.
There's that part of you that is left home. Thank you very much, Shafiq.
Yeah.
I'm only saying bye to you simply because of your line, which is a bit difficult.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank you for, obviously.
Let me go to Umu Najib, and then we'll try to get to Debs again if we are lucky. Umu Najib, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Keke.
Yes, good evening. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good to hear you. It's been a very, very long time.
I know, I'm always in the Kamoli. Work is really, really hectic of these days.
We are all hysterical here talking about home, going down memory lane and sort of talking about our own stories. What's your story? Where is home?
Well, for me, definitely Uganda is my home, because I've just been abroad for like 12 years and I really feel homesick every single day. I love Uganda. All the things that people have mentioned, I miss. I miss food. I miss the community. There's also the social intercourse, whereby you can have a party from Friday up to Sunday every week. Yes. Like there is a wedding going, there is a Okwanjula, there is all sorts, and everything is so effortless. Yeah. So every weekend.
Every time someone mentions something crops up into my mind. Do you know those aunties who would just spend like a month away, going from one funeral rite to another? A whole month is spent, and the auntie is out of home because she's just attending to all these social events unrelated to her own home.
And from each and every social event she leaves, she has transport to take her to another one.
And someone is going to pay that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they also, when I used to use public transport here, I found it so quiet.
Yes.
Because you could be going on a journey and someone starts a chivozi in a taxi and the entire taxi gets involved. Yes. And before you know it, you're at your destination because you're chatting away, nothing to worry about. That kind of social community interaction is so great. And also one thing I miss is the way we take everything so slow. Yeah, it is so fast here. Everything is rush, and everything is mainly about work. There is no that kind of time when you have time for yourself. Every time you're waiting, you're worried about when your next shift is going to start. You're in your house, you're running around like crazy because you are trying to not to be late. Yeah, that slowness, the way we used to take things back home, I love it. Someone could have an office and spend a week without even going to the office, but they end up being paid.
That's bad. That's bad culture now.
Well. In the way you get to appreciate it.
It's the older people, when you get onto the buses, especially the small buses, leave alone the big buses with the school children going up and making all the noises. On the small buses, you'll always find the elderly people. And these are the people that normally want to find out a lot of information. They are like bored in their own homes, and the bus becomes the mechanism to get someone to talk to. And you can see the kind of interest they generate suddenly once they start talking to you and they see that you are interested in whatever they are saying. It becomes very interesting, and they don't want even to leave their stops. They could even pass their bus stop and come back.
But that's just one individual, and doesn't happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're in Uganda, you are in a taxi and everyone is chatting, and we speak so loudly. Yes. Yeah, when you go home, if you haven't been home for a long time, the first thing that shocks you when you get home is the kind of noise on the streets, even in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, you are in your house. It doesn't matter whether you have those perimeter walls, but you can hear neighbors talking around the place or calling each other. That kind of voice, they're always voices, people are talking. Yeah. But here it's so quiet.
Yeah. And you know one thing that I miss, Sarah, you know, like when we go nowadays, because we've lived abroad, you can afford a car. So you'll be sitting in your car, you'll be driving off. But there are those taxi touts, you know, conductor taxi. The way they are knocking on the vehicles, you know, like, Mamo Uganda, then you say no, and then he comes. They always find some words. You never know where they get their words from. The moment you shake your head, they go, Mamo Uganda, like already he's found something to sort of fit with what you have done. And the way they are just there in the taxi, they will just find something. That, as you've said, you start a conversation in the taxi and everybody now becomes a part of the conversation. That in itself is very interesting. You could almost record, you want to sort of record this kind of, paint this picture for someone that even if you close your eyes, you could almost see a taxi filling up. The way they begin with tricks of bringing in someone who is not even traveling, they say taxi.
Yeah, and they start sitting, occupying seat.
You sit in thinking it's only 3 people now. Because you've come in, there's just 2 people to go. And the next thing is, each time another person enters, one more person gets out amongst the people that were the pretenders to the throne. That in itself has its beauty. that comes with that. You're so angry, but at the same time, you're already in there. You can't get out.
Yeah,
the lifestyles that I think we miss so much. You know,
and also when you drive, you know, before I started driving, when I used to drive with my husband, I thought every driver had to learn to swear or some abusive language to be on the street driving. Yeah, and it's almost the norm back home. But here you can hardly even hear anyone hooting. Yeah, they are so patient, they are so quiet. You make a mistake, no one will say anything, except maybe in some very, very urban places whereby someone would show you a rude finger. But then, but at home, everyone is just uttering insults as they drive. And it's so normal.
Debs, let me bring in Namitiana Gatsara. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and welcome back. It's good to have you back.
Well, I'm always here, you know that. It's just
finally, Namitiana, you are on the program just as we are wrapping up. You managed to get that button to unmute. How are you today?
No, I actually had to change gadgets.
All right, okay.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters on here.
Listening to the conversation, I'm sure you've had all our stories.
And that's why I wanted to speak, because sometimes I come in and I don't say anything. But I had conversations that were resonating. Actually, what the pitch you had earlier on in the day is what drew me to the conversation today. Now, someone saying, oh, everyone seems to be from Nyamirambo. For some reason, obviously, people are Hajis, Sheikhs, and Hajjas. If you've lived in Nyamirambo, Nyamirambo is very Islamic. But I am, when we talk about home, I am decidedly Munamitiana. When we were growing up, I was born in Mitiana. My mother's family are Rwandans, my father's family from Ankole. But when I was born in Mitiana, my father went there and they met and they got married. And it's a long, long story that I can't go into right now. But when I was growing up in Mitiana, I saw something that I haven't seen anywhere. And I've worked in Rwanda as well. I lived in, most of you have talked about Bidyogo and Chichuchiro. I lived in Kiyovu Chabachire.
Yes.
And but when I was growing up as a child, my grandmother, who was my maternal grandmother, always said that all the beautiful girls came from Rwanda. And also there was a Iman That's how I grew up.
Let's explain that to the Baganda speakers or to the non-Kinyarwanda speakers, that God would spend the time elsewhere and then God comes to sleep in Rwanda.
So imagine me, and then, but also I was growing up in Mityana, where in Mityana the Baganda were decidedly the Banyarwanda dirty. What is this? Gucci is what? They Bawanda Wanda, Banyarwanda Bagenda Bawanda Wanda, those kind of things.
Yes.
So when I arrived in Rwanda in 1994, I had a complete, and the reason why I actually came on today is I had this conversation yesterday, which is so bizarre. I had this conversation with my son yesterday.
Yeah.
It was his birthday, and we were we talk about these things, because again, there was that thing you were asking about young people coming to talk about. He asked me, but Mom, who are we really? Because I also married a Muteso.
Wow. Complicated things now.
Extremely. So he says, and then his thing is he British? We've lived in the Scandinavia, we've lived in the United States, we've lived. So he was asking, but Mom, who are we really?
Yes.
And but I'm talking about me right now, where we in Mityana they were telling us, oh, Banyarwanda is so dirty. You know, we want dirty in our home. Yeah. But I grew up thinking Banyarwanda are dirty people. So I arrived in Rwanda in 1994, July, right in the middle of the genocide, right after genocide, thinking I am going to find the dirtiest country. You know, I went there by employment, but I was thinking I'm going to find the dirtiest country in the world. I had this extreme negative connotation about Rwanda and what it was. And I arrived in Rwanda and I was so shocked. I was extremely shocked about Rwanda because I had my grandmother's Imana, wherever. And then I had the Baganda telling me, Banyarwanda are very dirty, they spit everywhere. So I was confused. And then I got to Rwanda, and I was very, very shocked about Rwanda. But Rwanda was never home. Even though I lived there and I enjoyed that time, I lived in Chabachire, I lived in Gisenyi, but it was never home. For me, Mityana is home. I've lived in the most beautiful places in the world, but for me, Mityana is home. And I've had three
What
people.
What sort of special memory do you have about Mityana that probably evokes? Close your eyes and take us now into a journey into Mityana. I've arrived into Mityana now, coming all the way to your home. What would stand out?
What would stand out, first of all, would be Lake Wamala, for instance. It is a very quiet, very serene lake. We used to go there as kids just to play. But also for me, it was the community, even as I describe it, the Baganda saying, oh, Banyarwanda like this, or Balalo, they used to call us.
Yes.
Balalo like this, Balalo like that. But we had a community. Just a few days ago, one of the people that I grew up with that I've not spoken to for 20 years called me. Because their mother died, and we have this community where we still have that in Mityana, by the way. The mother passed, but before even the mother passed, I had already been informed. But she called me just to say, oh, well, I'm here. But the thing is, I had not spoken to her for 20 years.
And the story just picked up. You didn't have to.
I can tell you, I was in the middle of the road. Even I was in Walthamstow in East London, and the police sirens were going, and I'm like, please, please. And I had to look for a corridor where I can actually have this conversation with her.
Yes.
And that's Mityana for me. Mityana is beautiful. You go there. We have these very diverse communities, but also have the love. The love that you have. I have like 10 million dads and 10 million moms in Mityana.
I feel you. I see like the way Shifanyira Ngoma's dad, before he died, he passed his own responsibility to Sheikh Sebumba, who is pure Uganda now. And you see now,
Sheikh Blega was the first, one of the dads. Then there was Sheikh Sebumba. Then there's Sheikh Sebumba is still there, by the way.
Oh yes, he never grows old. I go there whenever I go there. I go and visit him. I was there I was there last year.
And we have a nickname for him that I won't tell you here. Because even now, I mean, there was a time about 10 years ago, I went to Mityana and I was dressed in this I was dressed very European.
Yes.
And he just came, and he slapped me, not in a bad way, not like, you know, violent slap. It's like, Mwala, yes. You know, so that's how they are. They don't, and their fathers, like when I say I have 10 million fathers in Mityana, I still do. The reverends, their sheikhs, their, you know,
and that's the one sweet thing, the way you had a community where being Muslim or being Christian didn't really become a problem in terms of the relationships.
Exactly.
The way you would live with people. There's an old man who was called Mzee Michel Chibugo. He's since died. But Mzee Michel Chibugo used to have pigs in his home, and yet he was a very, very good family friend. I mean, he escaped from Rwanda during the genocide in 1959. Crossed into Uganda. He became a French teacher, you know, in Barara. He was very well known. This man moves to Kenya, and every holiday I would go to his place in Dagoretti in Kenya. And whenever I came, they used to have a ceiling. In the ceiling is where they kept a saucepan and plates for Kassim when he comes. He's Muslim, we have pigs at home.
Exactly.
And he would have his pigs there, but the moment I arrived, the saucepan and the plates that Kassim would come down. This is, you know, like
that still exists in Mityana.
Aesthetics, yes, they had value. They had friendship that was true in all senses.
Like for instance, growing up, my father is a Muslim, and but growing up, we always celebrated Eid and Easter, or Christmas, because my father always, it's like it was never about religion. It was never about it was never about that, and that's why I don't understand why things have changed like this. But I know that in Mityana, at least in some homes, in some families, it is still the same. I mean, I still go to the same Catholic homes where they say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I've arrived in this home. They didn't expect me," and they say, "Oh, we cooked pork, and because of that, we can't feed you today."
Yes.
And they'll be very, very honest about it.
Very straight about it. Yes. All right, Deborah. I think we have 11 minutes over. Oh my God, I'll just bring in 2 more people and then we'll close the show. Otherwise, this is one thing that we can go on over and over. I'm sorry about the problems initially when you're trying to connect and you couldn't get in.
No, it's okay.
Well, that was very fantastic. I think these memories, take us.
Can I tell you what my son said about what it means for him?
Is he not home? Is he not home? It would be good to speak to him.
No, he's not. He's not.
Okay, please, let's hear what
he wanted to. He wanted to know what I think, because he said, "Well, Mom, you know, for instance, the home where I live now, we've lived there for 18 years. So you'd think that England is his home here, but he was like, Mom, I'm so confused. I don't know where's home. We've lived in DC. We've lived in Stockholm and other places. We live very briefly in Rwanda. He's visited Uganda, and he's like, Mom, I'm confused. Where is home? And I said, well, home, son, will be where it is meaningful to you.
And what did he say? What was meaningful to him? Did he say?
I kind of biased him. Oh, by the way, he thinks he wants to spend a bit of time in Rwanda. Because I think that's the only place that he hasn't had time.
Right.
Maybe if I go and spend a bit of time in Rwanda, I can.
Now, it's very interesting. In my home, the first 2 children, the firstborn and secondborn, were both born in Rwanda. So they consider themselves, they are British Rwandans. Very seriously. I mean, they're really, really strong about that. They know themselves as Rwandese. That's how they consider themselves. Despite speaking Ugandan, very little non-Kinyarwanda, they call themselves Rwandese. Then the rest were born in Britain. But born in Britain, they still associate themselves now as British Ugandans. Now you can imagine the confusion in the home. It's all similar children, but then all of them having a particular perspective.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Let me just bring in Joy Mutesi.
Thank you.
And then, Joy, please, let's have you Message from Leila Kadulia who says, I miss the pampering we get back home. Knock on your door. Mama Naila breakfast, Riku dining. After breakfast, Mama Naila lunch to Fumbeti. Allahu Akbar. Then you return to the chips and chicken. I think it says the UK. Ya Rabbi Mom. This is someone who is very hysterical about where they come from. Joy, I'm coming to you as one of the two last people that I'll have in tonight. Joy Urakomei. Hello, Joy. Are you there? Are you in a position to talk? Hello, Joy. I'll try to find another man and see whether I needed Joy. And Janat, you didn't put your mic on, so I'm sure you've been listening in. Janat Benya, you've been listening in, but I'm unable to even get you to speak because your mic is not on at all. But I'm sure you've been listening in the background. Let me come to, let me try NK. NK, just trying to get some two people, and then we'll wrap up tonight's conversation, which has been very interesting. And thank you to everyone who has participated in one or another. NK, are you there? NK, please, if you can unmute yourself. Joy has gone quiet. Joy, I think, probably is at work. Jeanette, are you there? Hello, Jeanette.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I was getting worried that you are also muted, unable to come on. I'm sure you've been listening in to the people breathing out all the hysteria about homesickness.
Yeah, home is Uganda.
Home is Uganda. What is it about Uganda?
Everything.
Yeah.
Food,
memories.
people, good memory.
Where in Uganda?
Gayaza.
Oh, that's very city. That's very city born.
Yeah.
So what sort of memories? I mean, we've all been breaking out into our own memories. Taxi park at the
community. My cousins eating from home to home.
Yes.
Christmas time and all the good things.
Mm-hmm.
Eating fene, eating sugar canes.
All mixed in one meal, or just sort of spread out?
No, at home, just eating, randomly eating, climbing trees for mangoes and all those things. Just eating. And then school, of course. Oh, it was nice. Visitation day where you sit with everyone, all the friends. Oh, Gendo ite mkwanogo, where's your friend? And then we spread the mat and eat matoke and everything, and chicken, and you know. It is nice. Uganda is nice. It's the best.
I can feel it in the sigh that
I don't know
the way you are sighing.
Everything is nice. Even when my kids say, Mommy, Uganda is the best.
Yes. Who was saying that? Your son?
My children, yeah.
Oh, yes. Is that how they feel?
They love Uganda. They love Uganda. They love the food. They love the people.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, last person tonight, I think I'll take two. There's Abu Bakr and Jaden. Let me take Abu Bakr first and then finish with Jaden as our last person tonight. Mr. Abu Bakr, assalamu alaikum. Abu Bakr, are you there? Abu Bakr? Oh, it's just silent now. Let me go to Jaden. Oh, Jaden, I think you're trying to unmute yourself and then I almost clicked on you again. You can unmute yourself now, Mr. Jaden. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I've been soaking in and I've been soaking in, and most of those memories resonate with me 100%. And to me, home is where I can taste my mom's cooking, because my mother is the best cook, and where I can find food that tastes.
Are you sure your wife is not listening to this, Jaden?
I hope not.
I just want to make sure I don't cause problems tonight. You might end up without dinner if you haven't had it already.
Yeah, because we've got like different roots, and whenever I go to my mother, coming to my grandmother's, and they cook eaters of food. To me, that was good food, but still not food. Although my mom copied her cooking from her grandmother's, but when my mom cooks her food, the kisiras, the layos, the bamias, the gurusas.
Yes.
There is that peculiar smell which reminds me of my mom. That's where I call home. And that's where I had very good memories. And I can't say home is the particular place, because we've lived in many places not just in Uganda, but in Africa. My dad would travel around and he'd travel with us, or would travel with the grandparents and things like that. So physical home to me is not physical home. To me, the home is chakula, where the food smells like it used to smell in my mom's kitchen. That is home. Now, any single woman who is listening there and is looking, if you can cook that kind of food, I'm available.
And then you're opening up a can of worms. None would be very, very cross about it. But mentioning food now, I think for me, because I grew up in the restaurant, and actually we have a history with the restaurant. My grandfather, like I mentioned at the start of the program, was the first one to open a restaurant in Kigali. He had opened the restaurant in Ruhango, and the interesting thing is there used to be market days in Ruhango, and the former Rwandan prime minister would come, like he was a villager. He would come to town, and his coming to town would be to come and eat in our restaurant, and not actually eating by paying, but by rather begging. And he reminded me that one time, the former prime minister, he sort of Pierre Celestin Vigema. He came to me and said, Kassim, I used to be. And the interesting thing is, as prime minister, he went to live in a house where I had lived as a child. When he was prime minister, he got to live in a house because that house was, it was the residence of the Ugandan ambassador to Rwanda, Mr. Abdallah Rex, who was my auntie's husband. And so they hadn't had a child. He was Uganda's ambassador to Rwanda, and they took me in as their child. So I used to be the child in the home at the ambassador's residence until they got their first child, Bini Sulaiman. And this is the same home that this prime minister came actually to live in. So he invites me to his place. We go to the prime minister's residence, and he's in a home that I'd lived in, in the short while before that was overthrown in 1979. But getting there now, we start talking, and he knew my grandfather, the restaurant that he had in Ruhango, in Rwanda, in the south of Rwanda. And this actually, I think, was very fantastic. But whenever you talk about food, and that's why I brought this just as sort of an aside. Grew up in a restaurant. My grandfather owned a restaurant. My mother worked in her father's restaurant. My mother owned the restaurant for more than up to 30 years. Actually, it's the restaurant that paid my school fees, primary, secondary, university restaurants. So when you talk about food, I see where you're coming from. For me, food, if I eat food, I can actually tell how much effort went into that. So Mr. Jaden, I can breathe you. I feel you in that perspective. I would know how much effort, whether there was love, whether there was sweat, whether there was concern, the effort that went into a particular food. And with my grandmother, who was also one of the best cooks, very traditional cooking, in a pot, Irish potatoes with beans, palm oil, mamesa, or actually akazigo akaganda. They would just put the ghee in there, cover that, you come in, you eat, you drop dead with satisfaction. These are beautiful memories that you can actually never take away. I can almost smell, the sort of scent, the aroma that came from that kitchen. The kitchens that would have no doors, or probably iron corrugated sheets, doors. And then they would have a chibani up there where bananas would be placed, or whatever needed to be stored for long would be kept. And these are memories that I think just brings home to us. Jaden, any last words as we wrap up tonight's program?
Yeah, my last words. My last words is a word of thank you to yourself, Kassim, and we've come to learn so much in a very short space of time. These sessions have become a forum for us to share. I know there's people who have met each other on these sessions. I've had the previous lady who said she was married to Muteso. I would love to know who the Muteso husband is. You have met people from Rwanda and different places.
Debs, I'm sure you're hearing that.
So it's really an innovation. I would say it's an innovation that you've brought to the diaspora, and it's linked people from all over. As long as you've got those roots from Africa, you are always welcome. And always had. It's as if, Kassim, you know everybody. When you pick somebody to speak and you direct the conversation, you'd think you've lived in the same house. So I really can't thank you more, and I believe people on this forum, on this channel, will accept with me that you really deserve a very big thank you for this.
Oh, thank you very much. And actually, what better words to wrap the program tonight. Thank you very much to the technical team in the studio 75W Radio, also in Umma Connect to Usama, Hafsa, very much appreciated. And thank you very much for a very nice program. I've noticed we didn't hear from Joy, we didn't hear from Musa or Ismail Mugisha or even Abu Bakr. Hajat Sania, I've been seeing you being there in Kamori. Leila, we heard from you. Amina Nachiaga, you are comfortably at work, but listening in and enjoying every bit of the conversation. Umu Najib, we had you. Mwanaisha Kisule, we had the Mengo Chisenyi story. Fantastic. Omar, we've had an invasion of Canadians tonight, and hopefully, inshallah, we should be having you. Are always here every Tuesday from 8 p.m. UK time up to 10 p.m. inshallah. Thank you very much, and I can only wish you a very good night and to say, don't miss next week, inshallah. We are back same time with a different program that will get us talking. I can comfortably say now, you can go into your homes. We are done about tonight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.